Hello, GenderqueerChat. It's Callie, it's Saturday, and this week we are talking about sex in Western society, which is um, really interesting topic. Wee bit different. And people's opinions have so I'm trying to stand, because on the frame on my YouTube kind of cuts off the top and bottom of my videos, as opposed to what you see in iMovie, so I'm trying to be in the middle, so hopefully this is working. Yeah, sex in Western society, and people's views have been really interesting, and I wasn't sure what I was going to say, but what I think I'll talk about is, and people have mentioned this already, is the kind of widespread kind of, Joe used a good word, pornographization. Was that it? Of kind of society and media, and that's really true. Is that we see a lot of I've got a little index card. Check how organised I am, and we see a lot of that. And I think that leads to a kind of situation where not having sex is the marked condition. So if you don't, then there has to be a reason why. Like, it has to be because you're sort of incompetent, or because of a religious reason, or something like that. But I think that it doesn't have to be a reason why, and it can just be like, for some reason it's a marked condition not to, whereas you would think, well, you have sex because of a reason, like because you meet someone and you like being together and are attracted to each other, and so you go off and do that. But it seems like it's the marked condition is the other way around. But I think people talk about it, especially like when you're at school and continues into university kind of time, that, and maybe it's this throughout life, but from what I've experienced, like, it's like a big famous novel. Like, people talk about it all the time, but quite often they haven't read it. And I know lots of people who this is like, sex forms like the centerpiece of their like conversations. They talk about sex all the time, but they don't have it very often, if at all. And I don't have sex and have never had sex, and I am a virgin, which I quite like as a word, again, unfashionable, probably. I don't wear like a purity ring or anything. That would be hilarious. I should get a purity ring. No. But it's not because, I'm asexual and I don't feel sexual feelings, because I do, and I like being attracted to people, and sometimes I like feeling turned on, but not always, and not as often as I do, and maybe that's has to do with my male body, and the kind of all the things that kind of come as part and parcel with that. You kind of feel, more kind of. Again, I don't know all the kind of biology and stuff and about hormones and this sort of thing, but from what I gather is that one feels more, when trans women take estrogen, they feel less, like, they get less, like, what's the good word for it? There isn't a good word. You know what I mean. Erotically charged. You don't get that as often as, I'm British. We this is how we talk about these things. And there was I remember when I was younger, I think it was in the 90s or like early 2000s, there was this advert for British Airways, and it was an American guy who kind of talked about all of the kind of made fun of British people for the whole advert and then said, but Americans still prefer to fly with British Airways. So, haha. And one of the things that he was saying, making fun of British people, he was saying, and when it comes to sex, we all know what you prefer. And then there's a kettle boiling for a cup of tea boiling in the background. And I do prefer, you know, given the choice between a nice cup of tea and an orgasm, I think I know what I choose. And it's the cup of tea. And a biscuit, preferably. And I don't like watching pornography. You know, it doesn't, I don't really enjoy that, and I don't buy pornography or own pornography, and which is just, you know, people, all, I know not all pornography is like this, but pornography which is people having lots of penetrative sex, and, you know, I think my tastes are maybe a bit more subtle, a bit more refined than that, you know. Not that there's anything wrong with... It's like the episode of Seinfeld where everybody thinks that... I love Seinfeld. Everybody thinks that Jerry and George are gay, and they go around being really, really... they're really, really, like, horrified that people will think that they are, and then every time they express this opinion of horror at the idea that someone might think they're gay, they go, not that there's anything wrong with it. And there's a quote from, I've mentioned him in a video before, Roland Barthes. And there's a sexy, sexy man for you. Who is, I've mentioned him in a video before as one of my kind of intellectual heroes, and he says in this book somewhere, I'm not going to try and find it. I am going to try and find it. Look, I'm trying to find it right now, even as I'm speaking to you. He says in this book, The Pleasure of the Text, which kind of, and I really kind of identify him in this kind of blurred kind of identification of kind of reading an intellectual pleasure and like bodily sexual pleasure. Anyway, what he says is here somewhere. He says, I may be getting this wrong if I say it without actually finding it. It's not the most erotic portion of the body where the garment gapes. This is what he says, and I think that's quite true. You know, sometimes it's seeing someone in a nice outfit is more kind of satisfying, is more like in a kind of aesthetic sense, kind of taking broader picture, is more satisfying than seeing them maybe you know, completely starkers, as we say. So yeah, that's my take on that. This is really rambly and repetitive. I've gone off topic, gone off the index card now. But of course the side of it is that, you know, sex belongs in the context of, generally in this society world that we have, it belongs in the context of a relationship often, and like it has the kind of blessing of authority if it does belong in if it does happen within a relationship. And I am not really into the idea of having a relationship. Not that I'm fighting people off with a stick, but I'm just saying that unless I met someone who was like really right for me, I wouldn't bother, because